This class is for Penzic University 2022, and you can find this on my YouTube channel as well, Quilts and Costumes. So let's begin. The EPA has estimated that 17 million tons of textiles ended up in landfills in the United States in 2018. That's 5.8% of total landfill goods for the year. Textile manufacturing is one of the biggest causes of pollution on the planet. That's why it's essential that we, as costumers and consumers, use up every scrap that we buy. On the left is my first example. It's a 16th century German dress made from scraps, completely from scraps. So you can make something that's really intricate and fun if you really think about how to do it. Those of you who are theater nerds may know a style of theater called commedia dell'arte. There are characters in commedia who wear patched up clothes to indicate that they are poor. If you have a lot of scraps, consider making a commedia costume for a friend. At left is my friend Sophia wearing a servant's costume that I made for her comedy group. And the skirt, apron, and cable are made entirely from scraps. And a usage note here, I made it with an elastic waist so more people of different sizes could wear it as well. Masque costumes are another great way to use up your scraps. On the left is an 18th century Swedish jacket that I have been looking at for years. And I made one of my own, and I matched up the colors pretty well, considering that I'm a couple centuries away from when this original was made. If you want to see more drawings of masque designs, please visit Drea Leeds' website, and I have the URL posted below. Largesse. What is largesse? It is a word that means gifts bestowed upon people. In the SCA, royalty and baronage always need largesse because they're always giving out little goodies to people for jobs well done or as welcoming gifts. So consider using up scraps and making largesse for your baronage or royalty to use. On the left, we have embroidered cup covers. On the right, we have 14th century embroidered bags. And on the inset, we have a little dice game that's a bag that holds its own markers and dice. Purses. I love making purses. You only need 2 pieces of fabric that are about 7 inches wide and 9 inches long to make a lovely wool or silk purse that's lined with linen. And the tassels of that red purse are also made from leftover crewel embroidery threads. And on the right, we have some DMC threads used and a silk embroidered kitty cat, which is somebody's arms. You can use up your scrap leather as well to make purses or gloves. Many cultures use leather purses or gloves. And on the left is a photo of a purse that I made from cowhide and deerskin. If you want a pattern for a 3-fingered glove, which peasants wore and nobility wore, you'll find one in the Medieval Tailor's Assistant, Volume 2. Bags. Pilgrims carried bags, though not necessarily covered in tokens, as mine is on the left. Shepherds carried sacks called scrips slung over their shoulders. On the right, you can see a man with a little crescent-shaped bag under his elbow. That is a scrip. And you can also make a medieval market bag with 1 yard of fabric. I put the link at the bottom of the slide so you know where to go to see how to make one. Headwear. You can use scraps of white linen to make wimples and veils, as I'm wearing on the right, or coifs, as shown on the left, or braids, which is men's medieval underwear. What other things can you use scraps for? You can make flat caps. That's a German and English thing. You can make bicockets, which are more usually known as Robin Hood hats to people that aren't historians. You can make leg wraps, which Vikings wore. You can make tartlets, which all kinds of cultures wore. You can make detachable sleeves. You can make hoods. You can make pennon covers. In the image, the circular object in the back is a pennon. You can make sashes and you can make belts. The tiniest of scraps you can use to make cloth buttons. You need something that's only the size of a quarter to make a cloth button. And cloth buttons were made by men and women and worn by men and women. At left is my friend Jeanette, who made her outfit, including the buttons. And on the right is my husband wearing an outfit that I made with cloth buttons. And I've included a tutorial for you so you can learn how to make those cloth buttons. Doll clothes. Doll clothes are so cute, but I have no doll collection and I don't have anybody in my life who wants to use dolls at the time. So I gifted a bunch of my weird little scraps to my friend Alyssa, who has a business making dolls and doll clothes, and she made these lovely accessories for her dolls. Action figures. My friend Khalib informed me that when her boys were young, they wanted action figures. They did not want dolls. So she made action figures for her sons. I especially enjoy the Cyclops action figure that's shown on the screen. Using up scraps, you can make cup covers. We talked about this in a previous slide, but I wanted to show them to you up close. When you put beads on the edges, it will hold them down. So if a wind blows and you're outside, it won't blow off your cup. They're not historically accurate, but they do keep bugs out of your drink in the summertime. Using up scraps. Trim for sleeves, facings for tunics. Smaller scraps can be used as trim for sleeves or facings for tunic necklines. I always do this. I always look for scraps to do this. It just saves so much money. Make pin cushions or sewing kits. At the right and below is something called a huswife, which is a sewing kit used by soldiers in the Civil War. There are places for scissors, pins, needles, thread, and needle threaders. I use this thing all the time. And as a matter of fact, in this whole presentation, that's the one thing that I use the most. I carry it with me everywhere. It's a great lifesaver to have. If somebody needs, you know, pins at the last minute, you've got them right there. If somebody needs a something mended at the last minute, you've got the materials and tools with you. So I love this thing. I also have my Cthulhu pin cushion that doubles as a Christmas ornament in December. Treasure boxes. This is a late entry to this presentation. My friend Chosa made this adorable little treasure box out of some scraps. And I think it's a wonderful use. You can make it for yourself or you can make it for gifts for others. I would love a gift that's made out of scraps that I can put my little treasures into. Gift bags. If you're going to give a gift and you know the person will appreciate it, make it out of leftover fabric. These are all linen bags on this slide. One is decorated with a wool Christmas tree, that's mine. And then these other two have gorgeous leafy embroideries on them. I would love to receive a bag like that. I would use it over and over again. Using scraps to make mock-ups and toiles. If you have scraps that are large enough, You can make mock-ups of bodices or skirts to test the fit before you cut out your expensive fabric. Please note that using non-stretchy fabric is best for this. This is also a good use of the old sheets or that pile of fabric that was in the corner containing your "what was I thinking" purchases, which a lot of us have. Imperfect end cuts. If you weave, and even if you don't weave, you know that end cuts have to happen because when you start or finish weaving, it's not always perfect. So you can use those imperfect end cuts as garters, loops for bags, as shown on the slide, key fobs, or bracelets. And you can use leftover stored bot trim for the same purpose. I bought this pile on the right from my friend Martha, who has a store on Etsy, which I've listed below. Give your leftover scraps to friends who make paper. If you have bulk scraps of white linen, you can give them to your friends who will appreciate them. My friends have appreciated them. And from the tips that came in from other people, this is a well-known use of fabric, linen, white linen scraps. Scroll holders. I've been making a bunch of these because I am on a crusade to use up fabric that I will never use for costuming and to get it out of the way. The SCA Scrabble community is always looking for scroll holders, and you can make a full-size folio using a piece of fabric that's 22 by 32 inches. A half-size folio uses a piece of fabric that's 12 by 18 inches. I was so enthusiastic to finally be using up my fabric. I made a 9-minute make a scroll holder tutorial that's on my YouTube channel, and I put the URL below. Sustainability, maximum use from minimal fabric. Don't be afraid to piece your costumes when you make them. Piecing is historically accurate. All you have to do to know that that's true is get a tailor's manual, a historic tailor's manual, and see that they've got things broken up into pieces. And yes, your eyes do not deceive you. That pattern is mismatched, and that's historically accurate as well. Why? Because fabric was dang expensive back in the day. It's much less expensive to us now. However, this fabric on the screen happens to be the most expensive fabric that I've ever purchased, and I wanted to make a sideless surcoat out of the minimal amount of fabric that I could, and I did with some patterning help from my friend Sigurd. Shopping secondhand is also a great way to be sustainable. eBay is a great place to buy secondhand furs. Many people sell old fur stoles or capes on eBay. I would highly recommend that you go there. I've gotten some great secondhand fur off of it. Not every piece is 100% usable, but you know what? I would rather shop secondhand and give that fur another life than think of going out and getting something brand new. If you're good at searching thrift stores, you can find wool, linen, leather, and again, fur. My friend Isabel does just that. At left is her leather fire kit. At right, her hood is made from a wool skirt, and you can see it in progress there. And here is my friend Faye, who is a genius when it comes to remaking curtains and bed sheets into gorgeous garb. As you can see there on the left, she's wearing an English kirtle that she's made from curtains. And on the right is her and her daughter wearing outfits made out of curtains and bed sheets. Not only can you get good fabric secondhand, but you can also get accessories such as old jewelry, baskets, plates, cuts, and cutlery. My friend Chosa makes good purchases at silent auctions and rummage sales for her costuming. Odd socks. So we all know that dryers eat socks. That's just a fact of life. There's a universe somewhere that has all the extra socks that we're all missing. I'm here to tell you, if you lose a sock, don't throw out the remaining sock. Pair it with another sock of a different color. Many cultures wore mismatched socks. My husband and his great calves are modeling socks for German Landsknecht clothing. That's Landsknecht is a German soldier from the early 1500s. Extending the life of a garment is a great thing if you can remake an existing garment. The original dress in this photo on the far left is for my friend Esperanza. It was made by somebody who played in the SCA who was 6 feet tall. Esperanza is 5'2". So I had to cut a chunk out of the middle and cover up that seam line with a belt. And she wore it to her elevation ceremony. And yes, there's a purse that was supposed to be on this slide, but I took it off because I didn't have room. If you're bored with your garb, you can always change the trim. You can always add embroidery, or you can put pearls or beads onto veils. And as you can see, the lovely Hildegard is here with her beaded veil. Removing stains. Now, stains are historically accurate. Of course they are. And they were probably more permanent than our stains are, because back in the day, they didn't have the detergents that we have now. So if you want your garments to remain stained, sure, they can, and you'll be perfectly historically accurate. But if you want to remove your stains, I've included a link here to a video that will talk about how to remove different kinds of stains from different kinds of fabrics. You can extend the life of your clothing by mending it. My 18th century jacket was mended by my sewing machine. I made a seam that was too narrow, and then I trimmed the seam allowance even narrower, and it just split apart because both of those pieces that were sewn together were silk. Bad decision on my part to do that. So I grinned and bared it and put that coat under my sewing machine, and I zigzagged those stitches, thinking it was going to ruin the look. But you know what? It's under my arm. That repair is under my arm. Nobody sees it. So yay, I've saved this great garment that I spent a lot of time on. Also, you can mend your modern clothing, of course. If your husband puts your jeans in the dryer when he's not supposed to, and they shrink, you can add trim to the bottom of your jeans and make those jeans last longer. Guess what? You don't have to wash your garments as often as you do. Sometimes you can just brush off the dried mud before you wear the garment a second time. Now I'm talking about if you're camping for 2 weeks, right, at Penzig, and you don't have easy access to a washing machine and a dryer. You can just brush the mud off and wear the garment a second time. And when you do wash your garments, wash them in cold water and line dry. If you get bored with your garb, you can recycle the fabric completely. You can cut down your garb for children's garb. Also, larger pieces of fabric from Roman and Greek garments recycle very nicely, as shown in the photo on the left. On the right is a top that I made for a German Landsknecht outfit from a recycled skirt that I haven't worn in years and some leftover scraps of black linen. Remaking isn't always limited to clothing. You can remake your jewelry as well. On the left is a necklace that I made probably 20 years ago and probably wore once because it's so dang heavy. Those are stones. That's 4 loops of stones around my neck. I just never wore it. And I was tired of looking at it taking up room. So I took it apart and I made a paternoster out of it, which is a 14th century, for my 14th century outfit. Paternosters have been used for hundreds of years. And there is a great class on YouTube by Elizabeth, and I put the link in here, so go give it a view. Repurposing embroidered garb. If you have embroidered costume pieces that you won't wear anymore because of your changing tastes, or perhaps it's based upon somewhat questionable research, but you don't want to throw away all that work, you can cut up that embroidery and make it into Christmas ornaments. And that way you get to enjoy your embroidery and not feel that your time was wasted. By the way, the first time I wore this coif, I picked my finger and I got blood on the coif. That never came out no matter what I did. Use high quality fabric if you can afford it. It will make your garments last longer. I know that when you first start costuming, you may not have a lot of money for higher quality fabrics. But when you can afford linen over the less expensive cotton, it will help your garment last longer. My friend Hildegard has linen garments that are over 20 years old, and I believe it because I have pieces that are nearly that old. Another way to be forward thinking is to dress in unfitted garb. If you're making costumes for children, choose a time and a period that has loose fitting clothes so that they last longer. This also works as well for adults, especially if you're going to dress in Roman or Greek outfits. At left is a Roman dress made from a recycled silk sari. And at right, Marshall is wearing some loose children's clothing while playing on a scrap quilt on the ground. Modify your mistakes. If you realize that you've chosen the wrong fabric for a costume, accept your mistake and reuse it for something else. Don't let a perpetually unworn costume take up precious closet space. At left is a skirt that I made from fabric that was really too heavy to be made into a skirt. I wore it once. It wanted to drag on the ground and come off my hips. It just tried to all day long. And I was just really annoyed with it by the end of the day. So when my friend was going to be elevated, I thought, you know what? I have the fabric for that. And I made her a lovely outdoor cape for her elevation. And that skirt will be used up. The rest of it will be used up at some time in the future. Make multi-purpose items. As my friend Khalib says, a hemmed rectangle of linen, it can be an apron, it can be a towel, it can be a napkin, or it can be a hot pad. So if you think ahead, think and make multi-purpose items. Befriend a veterinarian. Make friends with your veterinarian so you can get shed or removed animal parts from a humane source. For example, when I was writing my class about Anglo-Saxon magic and I needed animal teeth and I was pondering where am I going to get animal teeth on Facebook, my friend Hillary said, hey, I've got dog teeth. I thought, well, take your dog teeth. And she threw in some naturally shed parrot feathers for a bonus. And they didn't have any mites because they were, from a pet bird that had been taken care of very well. So I can't wait to use those feathers. The capsule wardrobe is a modern concept that means you're trying to get the maximum number of outfits with the minimum number of wardrobe pieces. This saves you time and money as well as making easy packing for long events. These 8 dresses can combine for 18 different looks. And if you add an apron, you can get 3 more looks out of this group of clothing. Save your scraps for decoration. At left is my jacket, which I decorated with wool from my high school letterman's jacket that I took apart during COVID, like you do. I knew I'd never wear it again. Our school mascot is now considered a racial slur, so I definitely was never wearing that jacket again. So I reused some high quality wool that my mother had made my mother used when she made my letterman's jacket, and it looks great on that outfit. Also, at the right is a basket of leaves made by my friend Linnea, who makes lots of leafy things. Another Linnea creation is the garland made from wool scraps, which I think is genius. I never would have thought of doing that myself. So now I can't wait to make one of these garlands. And at right is a Christmas ornament made from scraps that we purchased when we were in Alaska. And now we're coming to the end. Disposing of fabric ethically. If you have extra fabric that you're not using, and I'm talking about yardage mostly, don't throw it away. God forbid, don't throw it away. Donate it to a silent auction. Sell your fabric that you no longer like. Hold a swap event and trade fabric with your friends, or post it on freecycle.org or buynothing.org. And last, what do you do with costumes ethically to get rid of them? A great deal of clothing that gets donated to charity ends up in a landfill. And so if you can give your costume a second life, please do. Donate it to a silent auction, like I've done for many of my costumes, or donate them to Gold Key. These are loaner costumes for newcomers at events. Sell garb that you no longer like or doesn't fit, or hold a garb swap event and trade garb with your friends. If you can keep that garment in one piece, because not all garments are suitable for cutting up and reusing. If you can keep it in one piece and know that it's going to go to a good home and know that somebody will use it and love it, please try to do that. And so with that, we are at the end. Thank you for coming. I hope that you learned 1 or 2 new things that you can use to costume sustainably. I hope you pass on some of these ideas, and I hope you visit my YouTube channel in the future for more costuming information. Have a good evening, everybody.